Good afternoon. It is a completely unplanned stream by Delenn Russell. Just wanted to dig in some more and chop down some more of the mansion that I've been tearing down so far this week. Kind of, I know it's a whatever Wednesday, but I guess whatever is sort of whatever I'm in the mood for. And therefore, I've decided that it's going to be more of the mansion, partly for the mats and partly because I enjoy working on this at the moment, so just couldn't think of a game that actually appealed as much as Minecraft right now, so I figured, well, let's just go with it. Predictably not super exciting, but on the other hand, while I like the chopping down things as per, say, our fine friend Carnage Joe, she has tips and tricks and things that are appealing, but this one, due to the visitors we get on occasion, can be a little bit more exciting, and sometimes I fall, but not a whole lot in the way of injuries yet. But yeah, just running along, tearing stuff up. But yeah, very unplanned stream for today. Apologize for starting a little bit late, so that explains a bit of the ranges of when I started streaming. It actually has to do with the fact that we pretty much just got in the door, the family and I, from slipping out for a walk-in clinic to get... We're in Canada, so I mean to get our boosters for the COVID vaccinations, as well as the second half of the youth shot in Canada. Just things have gone a little crazy sideways, so that the kids didn't get both halves of their scheduled vaccinations, so we figured we'd do the walk-in this afternoon, just get that over with, partly because we have Cub Camp on the weekend, so if there was going to be any temporary ill effects, like a faux flu rakiness or something, that we wanted to make sure we got that part through the ringer before we ended up in a tent at night at camp, because that could be pretty miserable for all concerned should it be that we end up achy or sore or something. And I'm just going to take a quick pause here, because if I don't turn on my closed captions system, then the program will beep at me, in which case we get a welcome of a bot, and that's totally not what I was looking for. So, yeah. But in any case, yeah, just putzing around, still tearing things down. I could probably, though, ditch the shield for a bit. I was actually carrying it not because I had anybody or any mobs in particular I was worried about, but more that I just needed the slot at that point in time. So kind of habit, I guess, as opposed to any real need. But yeah, and it's kind of funny because after I raided out this morning to, I believe we went to Maribel Jade. One of the questions she had was, "Why am I taking this thing down? Do I actually want the mats, or is it just sort of because I can, or is there some other reason?" I said to her, well, truth be told, if, depending on how much I get out of it, without letting the rest of it despawn, then I may not have to do much in the way of wood chopping at all, particularly not of these types of wood, for pretty much the rest of the season. Or at least in smaller sections, not all at once for major projects. However, I'm sure that my projects I pick going forward will prove that wrong. It's just, that's where I started. But she thought that was quite funny anyways. So yeah, sorry, just a quick text to my husband regarding a pre-camp related drugstore run, and it's kind of funny because when you go to get something and the pharmacist goes, "Yep, well, truth be told, what we actually do when we make up that particular med is we just take 2 tubes off the shelf and we mix them together. So I recommend you take 2 tubes off the shelf and do it yourself because it's cheaper, less annoying, and you don't have to go to a specific location. Apparently you need a compounding pharmacy to mix 2 tubes of medication off the shelf together." Yeah. Sometimes things just don't make sense. Can't spell today because it's affecting me. Give you 1 second, I'm just going to give a verbal dictation, and that'll be faster. hopefully you won't hear any more dings, but apologies if you do. As you can understand, just in case there's ever an emergency, my husband is pretty much just about the only person who's allowed to get through my stream muting with his text messages, just because he normally knows not to text me during a stream. But as this one's somewhat time sensitive, then I can understand why he was messaging me anyhow. But anyway, suffice to say that, yeah, it's kind of silly sometimes how you need to have a special pharmacy who's got special clearances to mix things together that you can do yourself. So obviously the medication that they take, obviously the medication that they do it with is not necessarily super critical in terms of likelihood of accidental overdose by getting a little bit more than necessary mixed together. So yeah. Or they wouldn't be telling people to do it themselves. That's just silly. But I understand also why they're doing that, because the way our medical plan works, we'd be basically spending, I think it's like $5 or something, maximum, for medication. And it might even be cheaper off the shelf, because you don't have to pay the pharmacist to pick it up for you. That's probably where that theme's coming from. Okay, where are we? Oh, right, wrong room. Distracted. It's after. Here's where we might end up getting visitors. We don't have any at the moment, but it's when I get turned around and can't find my way to the room that I put the bed in fast enough. Oh, there it is. Okay. And it's flooding. It's flooding. Alright. Fine. Wiki. So welcome to anybody who chooses to drop by. If you feel that need to lurk or drop in, drop out, that's perfectly okay. Nobody's going to get offended here. And I mean, if you make it some streams and not others, it's not at the moment like you're missing a whole lot. So if anything major does come up, you can do it. Actually, eventually I'll be looking into figuring out how to do clips that are actually half decent. At the moment, quite a few clips of my own work after the fact, like highlight style, and they always come out looking really clumsy. And they're really, I end up second guessing the content as to whether or not it was really worth it, and like worth the clip in the first place. And so the result is I haven't saved any of those clips yet. But eventually I'll do that. So if anything notable gets done, as in like if I actually build something or whatever, I can always make some summary clips for people to check out later. So until that stuff starts popping up, you wouldn't need to worry about having missed anything whatsoever. If you need to drop in, drop out, or take a break, or whatever works for your schedule. Yeah. So I figured we're tearing down a woodland mansion that server mates and I tore apart on the weekend. While I was definitely helpful in taking out some of the stuff, I was more useful on Saturday than I was on Sunday with the batch of mansions we took down. It's funny to me. I mean, I used to think that mansions were such a scarce item, hence, you know, the fact that some of the villagers sell special maps to them to be able to find them and stuff. But once you get a server mate willing to do the research and has Elytra, then you certainly don't find that they're anywhere near as scarce as you may have originally thought. At least not as much as I originally thought. So, we ended up with half a dozen that were scouted for us, and the Dirks, who are the party organizers, were letting me know recently that they actually have a line on a few more of them. This may not be the only mansion destruction party, but we got other things that we want to do prior to that, such as opening up more portals in the end, so that people can go out and raid more end cities and find more Elytra. End is not my cup of tea. I've been there once. Being part of a social party to shoot up more dragons, I will always say yes to, just because that part was darn fun. Bridging out over the void still gives me the willies. I mean, I don't think I know of any player for whom it doesn't give them at least a little bit of an adrenaline rush, whether it be nerves or anything else. But so that may be on the schedule at some point. I don't know I'll be involved or how the schedule will fit. Also, that we're talking about streaming plans for Dadcraft73 servers for the end of April, and I have not picked my slots yet because we have Cub Scout opportunities that came up, such as a sleepover at our local science center, the special, or the feature exhibit, there we go, that's available at the science center is rescue robots. So I think my kids would probably really enjoy that because they're kind of into technology and how technology can help people. I think that might be kind of fun. I don't expect whatsoever to get any sleep that night. Previous research has suggested that sleepovers at the science center in particular can be really quite noisy, because in the past, at least pre-COVID, the room they would actually host the sleeping part of the sleepover in does not have sound baffling in the roof, so like in the ceiling, and it's an open gallery, so it can get pretty ambiently crazy loud, which is not great for sleeping. Now, I've slept over at a dinosaur museum in Drumheller, Alberta. That was definitely fun. I've done that a couple times now, actually, and really enjoyed it. And that too, you would think was loud, but after a certain point, it actually isn't too bad, provided that you don't have people who snore to beat the band. I snore, but apparently not nearly as bad as some people. I mean, and that's excluding the ones that brought their CPAP machines with them. Because, of course, then there's always the automatic hissing and motors and whatnot involved in those to contend with. But at least when those are a constant hum type of thing, then it's not too bad. You can sort of tune it out. The first time I went as a sleepover, though, we had someone who snored like a bear. And I'm serious. It sounded like they were growling. It's funny because it was a parent of a youth in our group who, like our scout group that had gone, who, when he had come to camp with us, he had remembered to bring like 30 pairs of industrial earplugs. But after that, though, when we went to the sleepover and he attended, he didn't bring the earplugs, and I kind of wished he had. But oh well, it's only one night. It's not like it's a two-night camp or something like that. We're not in a bunk room or something. We actually, when we go to the sleepovers, you bring your own mat and you sack out on the cement floor. Yippee skippy. With a whole bunch of kids. Not always just scouts and stuff. Like, it's not always just your group of scouts. It's most commonly your group plus a whole bunch of other kids. It could be families and stuff. Nice try, Arch Thunder. Welcome aboard. Glad to see you. And no, you are not new here. You are a very welcome friend than who I know. Besides, without giving away too much, I mean, hey, you're a fellow countryman. That's enough. But glad to see you had the opportunity to drop by. Hopefully your workday wasn't too hectic for you. And if you are on your way home from work at any point in time, yourself or anyone else, just beware, I do not make a very fantastic drive home show. So say my kids. They were listening to me when they were out on the weekend, and yeah. Apparently the group is interesting as a whole, but they're like, Mom, I'm sorry, you're boring. I wanted music to listen to instead. I can't blame them, you know. Spoiled that they wanted to listen to it all in the first place, so I'm not gonna argue that. And to actually work, you're sore. Ooh! Did you get stuck in the field today? Wow. I apologize for making assumptions, but somehow I thought you were like the desk guy who's involved in estimating and so forth. Or project quotes or something like that. So, yeah. My workman adventure today, not much because I wasn't involved. Fantastic Shock Fox took care of it all. But we had a couple of workmen come today to finally get around to replacing our bathroom window that got smashed last July during a heavy-duty hailstorm. Thankfully, it was only one of the two panes in the layers, like so the outer one got smashed, but not the inner one. But they replaced that chunk today, and it went really quite fast, and I'm pleased. Aw, fiddle. Yep. I accidentally right-clicked on a log and didn't mean to. So see, I've stripped it, and that's not what I want to do. I don't like those. For the most part, don't like stripped logs unless it's intentionally in a project, so I will convert it to planks and call it a day. Ooh, hauling material for service when you're not normally a field guy. Ouch. Yeah, you'll be a little stiff for a while. From what I could tell, those packages are not very light. Anyway, yeah, so that was our adventure today, was we finally got the window replaced. Also, I have a suspicion next week that by the time Fantastic Sherlock Fox comes home from his business trip, he has to leave while we're away at scout camp on the weekend, so we will be coming home to an empty house. But by the time he gets back on the Friday, it's pretty likely that the house will probably smell a little bit on the stale side, only in that he and I don't always agree on temperatures. I mean, men and women usually don't, but he's been enjoying using the summer fans during the daytime to try and ventilate the house, as he calls it. I just call it breathing dust. Because we've got some fairly high winds of late, so camp all kinds of stuff outside, and the intakes are sucking that in and bringing it to us. But the other reason I don't like it is just that, of course, I'm always cold. So, of course, related to the workman and yada yada yada, he also likes to leave the bathroom window open because, I mean, partly because our circulation fan to get the excess steam and whatnot out is not exactly super effective. I mean, it helps, but people say, you know, leave it on for half an hour, and that should more or less cover it, if not a little better. Yeah, no. Some areas of our bathroom mirror at the top edge and stuff, or sorry, bottom edge, I guess, you could still, like, easily run your finger up it and get a little bit of moisture. And that's just, it just doesn't do enough cubic feet per minute sort of thing. So he opens the window. But then he leaves it open all day, and if I close it, I'll come up in the afternoon, and he'll open it again. Which, I mean, it's totally his prerogative, but I don't know about you. I find, partly because we have a tile floor as well, and granite countertops, I love it, but it means then that I'm a little fussy about, you know, using the washroom when it's cold in there, and if your weather at best outside is like, oh, jeepers, what are we at now? In Celsius, we're running at about 9-ish, so we're looking at like just under 50 in the Fahrenheit system. And so if that's what your temperatures are at best outside, then I'm not a super duper huge fan of having the windows open. You know, you go to do your thing and it's sub-normal room temperature. During showers is fine. Like, I totally understand it collects during a shower. My idea is that once your shower's over, you should be able to, over time, or over any reasonable length of time, have your exhaust fan basically do what it's supposed to do and help exhaust that moist air outside. Our house tends to be more on the dry side, so we actually have humidifiers built into our furnaces, because otherwise our hardwood goes funky. But that said, like, it's just kind of wild. So anyways, I just thought it was extra weird that he was doing that. And he goes, well, there's extra moisture in the bathroom. Well, yeah, there kind of would be if one of the panes to the window is gone, so it's condensing on the window, and that's your measure. You know? Like, we don't always see eye to eye, suffice to say. You know, he's got his prerogative, I suppose, to... Did I just do that again? Nope, I didn't. Okay. Prerogative to think what he wants, and I'm okay with that. It's just that I would like to be able to not be cold when I do things. That's for camping. But, you know, everybody's got their quirks, and husbands and wives don't usually agree. So, if husbands and wives ever did on a regular basis agree on something, they might have to start contacting Guinness Book. Because it would surprise me quite heavily if anybody agreed with me that much. Let's... Oh, that was the stairs one. Put away. Planks. 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 Maybe planks. I've got... Oh, there's the stairs one. Perfect. I'm trying to stay somewhat organized on this, just because otherwise I will have a ton of organizing to do later, and I'm not very good at that. If I can organize now, it also means that I can make better use of the shulkers I brought with me. Is that everything? Yes. Close enough. Yeah. You judge me. Totally your prerogative, Arch. Judge away, mister. Okay. There we go. I've forgotten to open up one of my windows. So while you guys see chat on screen, I didn't have my on-screen chat window going on, so yeah. Did not see. There we go. Now I can see the chat with timestamps a little better. I can also see that I'm making mistakes in trying to chop wood with an axe. Or a pickaxe. It's not going to help anybody. So where we're at with this particular mansion, for those that haven't got a good sense of it, this is the set of stairs that virtually go to the 3rd floor. You know, like you go in the little doorway from the hallway, and then you got the up the stairs and around the corner kind of stuff. And then there's a little tower that comes up, so we've taken down basically tower and the floor. And this is the upper floor. Or could be upper floor, could be, I don't know, 2nd floor. Like, as in 2 up from the ground. Part of it is when I was going through and just digging down to see just how far it goes, it looks like it goes a crazy way down below here. I hadn't realized when we were actually rating this one that there was a good chunk of it. You can see from the land level here. A good chunk of this building was actually covered entirely by dirt. So I didn't know it existed. I was running around on the inside, but then you've got adrenaline running and stuff chasing you and Vexes all over the place that, I didn't get a really good feel for the size of the building. It wasn't something that I stopped to consider. But now that I'm actually tearing this sucker down, it's big. Quite big. Yeah. And yeah, we also get sun in the eyes, so I mean that's a little bit of a drawback to this particular shader set. On the other hand, I mean, I like the little lens flare thing they've got going on. So I think I'll probably just bring it down the wall from the other side. It's probably a smarter move. And I don't have sun in my face. Not like we can just throw shades on and... Oh, Minecraft, okay. Sideways maybe? Come on, let's get this block down. Oh. Can't stop getting sun in your face, can you? Okay. Do that bit then we'll go to the shady part. Because I should probably do that during the earlier part of the day before I get mobs showing up and dropping over the edge. I didn't realize that there were some actual ledges built in here. Like, by the time that... there were people that raided mansions with me that had far more experience at raiding mansions than I had. It was my first time on the weekend. So, when they were running around, they got in and we were putting up dirt layers and I don't know what else they were carrying. I mean, could have been some granite and stone, but I have a suspicion that it was just the way the mansion generated into a hill. But there was dirt stuff going on that people were putting in here and pillars all over the place and whatever. So I didn't actually realize that there were some ledges that don't have ladders to them, but definitely have enough space for things to spawn. And nobody had lit them up. So, of course, taking them down was interesting. I dropped out a whole chunk of the ceiling, then I'd come down and pick it up, or attempt to pick up most of it before it despawned. Didn't get all of it, of course. And then, I wouldn't take out all the ceiling, but I did that, come down, and there's like 2 or 3 skeletons dropping on my head in one room, and I couldn't figure out where they were coming from. And it just so happened that there's a chunk where I looked up, and what was roof at that point in time was birch, just like these towers are. But the ledges were also birch, so when I was looking up, I wasn't actually able to see that it was not part of the ceiling. So when I came down from, I was looking at it from above, as I chopped out the birch part of the ceiling, I could finally go, oh, that's where they were from. Of course, by that point, there's no advantage to lighting it up because you're in the process of taking down the stuff immediately above it. But it's funny because I was just doing a real quick inventory and I'm thinking, okay, well, I get birch, you get I get oak, I get dark oak, and then that means the only type of, well, one type of wood easily sort of commonly seen in the way I play or the areas I play in that I didn't have is spruce, which is not a hard one to get saplings for, not necessarily stingy when it comes to number of saplings returned per tree when you're chopping. Whereas oak, on the other hand, could be a stingy brat. And I made the mistake of not realizing or not remembering that oak trees must have 4 saplings to create an oak. Dark oaks, sorry. Regular oaks, of course, you only just need 1, but dark oaks needed more. And I made a mistake of not remembering that, so I had myself down to 1 sapling and couldn't figure out, but was frustrated when I realized I have to go on an expedition to get more. Well, yes, but if I'm going to be chopping it anyways, then why not just do it this way? Because scenery is better, for one thing. Savannas and I think it was Savannah, but anyway, Savannah type areas are all well and good. But they're kind of bland to look at if you're just going up to the top of a tree, chopping it down, rinse and repeat. Whereas this one actually is a little bit more eye-appealing, for me at least, while we are chopping. And more chance of falling off things, so I mean that increases the challenge. Well, as much as there is any challenge doing this. When I initially started, I thought, before I even take the roof down, I should just go and clear out all the inside and easy acquire stuff. Well, yes, easy acquire stuff, but if I took up all the carpets, then I'd have mobs everywhere. And yeah, that was not worth it. I never would have thought of calling it a cool dissection of a mansion. I sometimes wish that one could reach higher. You could do an entire mansion floor all at once, like pick a wall and just keep going up and down. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So you have to do a lot of peeling off the roof. And a lot of jumping down and retrieving things. I shouldn't say jumping down, coming down ladders and whatnot. Well, or getting knocked off by a skeleton. That's another thing. Sort of the, while we're here, I guess, since we got knocked off, then we might as well pick this stuff up. Yeah. Bedrock reach for the win, indeed. Well, I mean, 4 to 5 blocks isn't too bad. In terms of, like, because I'm enjoying semi-realism, particularly with this texture pack, I've griped about some of its flaws before, but because I'm enjoying the semi-realism of it, I probably couldn't reach more than the equivalency of like 2 to 3 blocks max, holding on to like the very tip of the handle of a functionally usable axe in real life. So if you consider 1 block in game is pretending to be roughly 1 meter, with an axe held at max length, I would be really quite surprised if I could get much more than maybe like the length or the height of the equivalency of like a household door. That's not saying even whether it's usable at that length, that's just, can I touch anything? So being able to get bonus out of that in the game is probably worth it. But it does mean that, yeah, Bedrock has a better reach. Which I think is handy, particularly when it comes to weapons such as swords. Simply because then you can take things out a little bit easier with the tip of your weapon. It'd be kind of curious to see. I will admit I was a little lazy, so I know that sounds distracting, but I'd be curious to see how others would approach a mansion dissection. Not that anybody necessarily has to. I just would be curious to see how others would approach it and what they would do the same or different or whatever. Of the 6 that we did over the course of the weekend, I actually just chose the first in the list to tear down. Partly for convenience, partly because whole left actually is kind of a neato shape. So it was sort of fun to figure out whether or not there was something that could be done with it. But I've got enough ideas floating around at the moment that I can't seem to settle on one all that easily, and then when I do settle on one, then I fixate until it's complete, which is challenging. So I want to do calling it a bookshop, but it's kind of a cafe slash enchanting station slash bookshop. And that's taking effort in a lot of ways. It's not just the materials gathering. I'm probably gonna need more than what I've got. I mean, not that because I'm not gonna be doing it all out of wood. I mean, if it was just wood, then yeah, I'm gonna have plenty. But it's not gonna be just wood. It's gonna be other things too. Obviously, bookshelves, and I don't know about an enchanting table. Actually, now that I think about it, that could be a problem. One must have a diamond for that. And yeah, not yet. Soon. Well, soon I hope. But the other part of it was I wanted to do a little bit more of a cafe style. And the outside was going to be a bit more computer, I suppose. So that would mean some AFKing for bone blocks. But even just getting the inventory, I refuse to zombify and cure my villagers just to get a cheap rate. So that means a little bit more to and fro from things like the melon farm and the iron farm, just to get the emeralds to buy the books. And yeah, a little bit more time involved in that part of it. So I admit the books may be more expensive. I think I might have said that before. I could be repeating myself for all I know. Books might be a smidge more expensive than one might normally expect, but I think I'd probably be like, you know, a couple of diamonds or something. Only because I don't... People have the opportunity to go elsewhere if they wish, but if I'm gonna spend the time to do the same sort of thing with uncured villagers, then I figure it's worth a little bit more than people who can mass get them in quantity for dirt cheap. And I mean, if you think about it, I'm a little bit like 7-Eleven. We talked about that a bit this morning in the corner store, and that there's times where, yes, you could go to, you know, a Walmart or a specialty store for the product you're looking for, but the convenience store is that convenient, and you're going to pay a little bit more for that convenience. So that's part of it. And the front end of the shop thing, I said cafe, but it's really more like a strange book Starbucks, I guess. We'll have to see how that turns out, because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there. Although my interest, normally I would build from the point of view, or sorry, in the order of operations of what is somebody going to see first when they first walk in the door. Start with like the shell and then decorate the inside and then figure out where to go from there. This one, unfortunately, because of the nature of putting in a little bit of redstone to manage a doorway inside, then I will probably end up building it inside out. To start with the room that would be last, because it involves some redstone, and then move to the one that's second because for that same reason, the redstone that was there, is to incorporate for both. And then once I've got that, I can start to figure out how much space I want for the sort of bookstore seating area type thing, and build a shell around the whole thing, and then finish decoration after that, which is, by the scale I've got, a fairly large project, but I want to get at least a part of it started. Technically the sales of of pre-enchanted books portion will be the first room, so even if it's half finished in the construction look, it'll be one of those things that has a sign that's like, you know, open during renovations or something. Just because that way we can get things going, and that'll allow a little bit for the stall that I'm going to put in towards the end of the month. I am bound and determined that there's going to be a session of streaming involving attempting to make a portion of the Orient Express. And that means that for that weekend, of course, at least one session, I would be stalling my bookshop work. I mean, I could change my mind if I get on a roll, but I've been really looking forward to doing this train, hence I mentioned it on multiple different streams, under the heading of fixation. And so I want to actually take a pause and do that. Thanks to all who are giving me tips and tricks on bees. I've done a little bit of AFK at my base and bred up a few more bees after I brought in I think about 5 more, and then I was breeding them a little bit. I haven't I haven't stuck around long enough to populate the whole set of hives I've got, but added a couple more natural ones. I think 2 or 3, which allowed me to move some of the artificial ones elsewhere, as in like move the one artificial one to the end of a row, so now I've got one side of my two, so one side of my double-sided bee farm having the honeycomb part, and the other side having the honey. And it's only the honey one that is the artificial beehive boxes, whereas the honeycomb one, it ended up being all natural hives. So some of them came with residents who despawned, and some of them came with the new set of residents. But it just, I kind of liked the aesthetic look of not mixing and matching the various types of boxes. On the other hand, I mean, I could have alternated them, I suppose, but that would have been a possibility. Yeah. And I don't need them for this next build. I was actually originally thinking I was going to use for the bookshop. I was originally thought I was going to use honeycomb blocks as floor tiling kind of thing. When I put them down, while I liked the hexagonal shape that was developing and that sort of patterned look, it really didn't end up working in the color scheme. If they had gone with a bit more of a yellow and say brown or tan, I think that would have worked better, but it is very anti-Zerk in color. Very, very orangey. Although my bot seems to be highly active this afternoon, and it's not necessarily the bot's fault per se. There is a known flaw in the bot software I use, where when you've got timed events, even if you put them on what's known as a blocking queue, so that they're not supposed to let the next item start doing their measurements until the previous action is finished. When it comes to timered things where you can have X amount of minutes have passed or a certain number of chat lines, unfortunately that doesn't start counting when the previous action that was blocking it finishes. That timer actually starts counting. Okay. That timer actually starts counting earlier. So, like the check for whether or not you've had enough chat lines and whatnot ends up being earlier. So the result is that you end up, that'd be a gross bed to sleep in. The resulting effect is then you end up with multiple actions firing based off of the same set of chat lines. So for example, if I said it's not supposed to show up unless there's been 5 lines of chat, well, I may have 3 different actions that have that same parameter, in which case they may all fire off back to back to back of each other, simply because they all looked at the same 5 lines of chat. Which is kind of sad, because I even looked to see if there was a way I could do it, to say, hey, do this, if there's 5 lines of chat, since previous insert name of action here. Unfortunately, there was not. I'm probably able to do it if I was to switch over to C# code, but I'm not a C# coder. I can read it. I know how to muck with altering bits that are there, but I'm not a coder by any means, so if I can do it by the built-in actions, I will go that route. But I just figured there are plenty of things to troubleshoot. I look at it as it runs. The pieces do what they're supposed to do, even if they overlap each other, so it just reminds me every time I see Dadcraft's short, in quotes, short block of socials and so on, that I really should look into breaking his socials up a little bit more. Maybe making them a little bit more sequential or random or something. That's one of those round to it items. One of these days I should actually craft myself a physical, at home at least, a physical round to it. My grandmother used to have one. So basically, long story short, we'd talk about all the things that we would eventually get around to it. We'd all get around to it. And she ended up having one that basically was a coaster, where somebody crocheted over the top of the coaster just to give it a nice little edge. And then literally had written "to it" in paint across the center, put magnets on the back. So she had that on her refrigerator. And when I was a kid, I remember asking her what it was for. She said, well, it's my round to it. There's this thing I would get around to it. Well, they gave me a round to it, so now I had to do whatever it was. And so, yeah, one of these days I should either make or get a round to it. And then I'd have even less excuse on my list, right? Using all natural hives for your bee farm. How many hives did you end up going with, Arch? I'm really quite curious. I've only got 6, I think. Whereas, depending on the size of farms, I mean, because people tend to like to tease you for the size of your projects, I'm actually really quite curious how many hives that turned out to be in the end, because that's a lot of wandering and looking for bees. It could be. Then again, the whole reason my bee farm initially started, it was one of those things I hadn't thought of, or really hadn't thought anything about, didn't put anything into. But it started because I was trying to chop oak for some project I was doing, and fired up the tree farm. I don't know if it was on camera or not, but anyways, I bone mealed it, and poof, there's a beehive almost right in my face. Oh, well, guess I got a beehive now. And then I just had to sort of leave it floating for a while just because I didn't want to risk smacking the bees when I got too close. Ah. Yes. They do spawn with the trees, and I mean, that is an option. If you've got another thing going, another project like Joe tends to have, where she has a reason to chop an awful lot of wood. Whether it be for things like her crane in the quarry on the Bedrock server, or whether it be like she had Boggs logs last year and chopped a lot of wood for that, so it was sort of her wood shop. You know, she's got shops for all kinds of things. Or this year I think she's also put a lot of wood into her villager village. She's got, I think, approximately 10 villagers, about just about every variety. So, of course, there's a lot of houses built for that. But yes, Joe is my #1 resource for information. If I ever felt like talking to a person about how to manage bees or trees, I honestly would ask Joe first. Part of it is because it's one of the things that I'm fairly certain does not have parity differences between Java and Bedrock, at least not in any notable way. I really don't think I'd have any problems asking Joe if I actually had something I wanted to know. Yeah. I'd say the second most stingy type of tree when it comes to saplings would easily be the jungle trees. Because there's been more than once where I've actually been chopping down jungle trees because I needed them, of course. And then suddenly, lo and behold, down to my last sapling. And it's one of those ones where you cross your fingers that you're going to get at least one in the next round, and you get one. Okay, well, let's rinse and repeat this. You know, don't hold your breath kind of thing. Or scrunch your face the right way, just to hope you're going to get a sapling. And I've had times where it's failed, and so I made 2 or 3 trips to jungles. There's one actually, a very, very tiny one near me that I was unaware of earlier on, but now that I know about it, I've been there a couple of times just to try and grab more saplings, try and cut down trees locally. Yeah. It's funny because we've got one of our community members who helps maintain Dadcraft. Well, is kind of the heavy lift maintainer of Dadcraft's Minecraft servers. It's the esteemed Superfishy. And Superfishy, going with that. There's a reason I have saying Superfishy. This is something awesome about the fish too. Oh well. In any case, Superfishy is awesome and helps maintain these things, and there's nothing that I think we would have a lot of problems if it weren't for the fishy showing up and solving issues. Because if it isn't one person, it's someone else who's either got entities out the wazoo for lagging the server, or has accidentally done something that crashes it for everybody else, or just sometimes the server throws a fit and doesn't want to restart after it's powered itself off. And everybody calls the fishy. See if that works, but of course he's in a different time zone, so sometimes getting fishy's help can be a little hit or miss for good reason. I mean, he, like everybody else, has a life too. They're all volunteers, right? Nobody gets paid for this business. But, yeah, but it's a great community of people. Like, for any adults getting into Minecraft that would like getting into, or just who regularly play, who like a friendly, clean community, I think this is a great place to be. But we're clean enough that you can have underage people kicking around and rather safely. However, we just, love to, I shouldn't say love to, don't have any issues abiding by the rules where we prefer it all to be adults. I mean, there's silly jokes made, but nothing on the heavy innuendo side. But yeah. Well, that's the other reason that, Arch, when you're talking about saplings and fortuning and stuff, that's actually one of the other reasons I didn't get much luck out of the saplings, is actually because as part of my villager leveling up, I ended up with scads of diamond hose, and was just frankly too lazy to go put fortune on them. I should. I just didn't bother. I mean, it's one of those ones that I was just using them up, right? And if you've got diamond hose, a lot of people, when they get crummy weapons or crummy tools as a result of leveling up villagers, just toss them. I feel sorry for the people that were watching me on Twitch this year a little bit, because I'm one of those people that doesn't want to toss things in lava just to destroy them, unless there really is utterly no use for them. But even if the use is being annoying, then yeah, I will use them up. Of course, I went and dug sand on stream with stone shovels, for example, without a beacon initially. You can imagine Brian, Stoner Miner, alerted me fairly quickly to the location of his beacon out in the desert, so that would not happen again, and I was not too surprised that I probably had bored him half to tears. Nobody said he had to stick around. But in any case, like, I really enjoyed the company of people, even if there's people that simply show up as a number because they're watching and hanging out. It just makes me feel good. I know that sounds cheesy and cheap, but it's one of those things where, unlike the solo worlds, you're not alone. Even if you're alone, you're not alone. I don't know how to explain that. If somebody somewhere on the server AFK, or you actually do by some chance, I mean, this is the coffee server after all, happen to be on your own for real, it's not for long, and sometimes somebody will say hi, or if you do something somewhat notable, like tearing down a woodland mansion, then at some point somebody's going to fly over with the elytra or something and go, oh, that's not there anymore. I thought it was. Or, wow, that's a different change, even if they knew it was coming. That sort of thing. So, on a solo world, unless you invite people in and give them like a tour or something, most people don't ever see anything you do. And you can't get any real... what's the word? Not real. Satisfying feedback, I guess, is probably the best word, from fake NPC villagers. I mean, there are plenty of other games with NPC villagers in them that are definitely not as obviously not the sharpest tack in the box. So, yeah. Kind of interesting, actually. I was watching Zloy and Liara today. They were together, but they weren't together, I guess. Liara plays, or was playing for the first time, Stardew Valley, because she's never tried it before, simply on the grounds that she knew she'd get addicted to it, or it would suck her in, as she put it. And sure enough, of course, it has sucked her in. But she has zero interest in Valheim, which Zloy was playing. It's not her thing. Whereas Zloy, on the other hand, seemed to have very little interest whatsoever, to fairly clearly zero, for Stardew Valley. He quite likes Valheim. And yet, because there was some periods on Dara's stream today where she knew she was going to be quiet, like as in she has to mute for her husband's business calls, he's working from home or something. So, or her other half, I don't know. I didn't quite catch what the relationship was, I didn't bother asking either. Anyways, but she knew she'd have someone else to mute for while they had work. Then she decided to have a sort of bizarre collab with Zloy, where they were both linked in on the same audio, and they both were using their funky little 2D avatar heads while they were playing. But they were playing the two different games, and they were both talking about their own game, their own stream, and reacting to their own chat, and reacting to things popping up in the other person's chat, even though it wasn't a combined chat feed. And it was kind of neat. But anyways, so you had all kinds of weird comments about Stardew Valley's very clear anti-corporate greed type stance that it takes. While at the same time you're getting Zloy talking about like being able to turn around and have mountain trolls squash him. It was just sort of a weird experience. But it made me think about the fact that I like both of those games and have never played either one of them on stream, and vaguely wondered how well that would fit my taste. So maybe when I squirrel and once again start looking for yet another thing to play, I might try one of those. I know there was some interest, a little bit at least, in seeing some Valheim when I last put up one of the multi game choice polls for whatever Wednesday, and then somebody rightly reminded me that doing those polls is kind of pointless. A, people get tired of them, which is not what the person originally said. But B, is that it's whatever Wednesday for a reason, because A, I'm the streamer, and B, I just let people know that it's whatever strikes my fancy is going to be played. And so I don't have to ask their opinion. I mean, I don't want to be rude or anything like that. If somebody outright said, hey, why are you not playing X or Y, I might take that into consideration. But I don't think I need to burn people out on always saying, hey, what do you want to see? That's like saying, you know, I'm the TV. It's like pretending to be the TV and then asking what channel the user wants to sit on. It's not realistic. And rather silly to do so. It's funny you should say that, Arch. Technically, we all have a permit. However, you will never in a blue moon catch me using that particular flip, only because it is, I did not handle very well having the permit button pulled a few times right after I had made a particular comment. Not a specific content comment, but after I'd made a comment to a particular other streamer. And, if it had been an isolated incident, that's fine. You know, or a couple of incidents, that's fine. But after about the fourth one, I decided, nope, I'm not gonna have this happen anymore, and I will never use that permit thing again, because I don't want to be like this person in that particular sense. I understand why they did it in general, and so of course it was a correction to my behavior, but me making that same mistake, you know, nearly half a dozen times. A says, dude, making the comment, you're an idiot. And I don't mind saying that because in this particular instance, it was myself. But B, you know, it's not worth getting one's nose out of joint, but if I could get my nose out of joint, there is not a zero level risk of somebody else getting bothered if I pulled that stunt on them. Whether I felt it was warranted or whether it was just in jest. So I just decided that I will never use it because I don't want to risk offending somebody else. Or, not offending them, upsetting them, how's that? Making the assumption that the definition in this particular instance of upset would simply be their normal comfort zone, I guess? Because, yeah. We're not talking about, like, making someone cry and go home and wail and stuff. That's just nowhere near where I'm going with that. If a person is doing that, then they need their priorities adjusted. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, what it really does come down to it when you say I have a permit is, truthfully, we do what we want. That's what we're here for. And people vote with their feet. In that if they want to watch it, great, they stick around. But if they Even if they like the person's style, if the person is not playing something they want to watch, they go elsewhere. And then that leaves it up to the streamer to either continue playing that because they enjoy it, and then they just stream because they enjoy the stream, or they change up what they're playing by making themselves make a different choice or different selection. Just because they realize they don't want to, or they're not as comfortable streaming to 0 if they know that they can stream to more than 0 if they just played it something different. And if streaming ever feels like work, well then don't do it. Simple as that. That's not actually, no, let me correct that. Given what someone's personal situation may be, if it feels like work, don't do it. Because I mean, obviously for some, there are those out there that manage to make it successful enough that frankly it is their work to stream because they get enough financial support to make ends meet. That's not my aim here, so, and it's not the aim of a lot of streamers, so you don't need to cause yourself pain. But yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say there. Oh, okay. I do think I might keep this cute little buddy of mine on the screen. I've turned off her emotion sensitivity. I don't know if I'd had it on the last time the Arch was in chat with me. Hey Max, how you doing? Glad to see you were able to drop in. Interesting, I should be hearing welcome noises with that, but I'm not. A little concerning. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Commands, do I even... I bet you I know what happened there. Welcome. Play, source, visibilities. Aha! Do I have a sound? Yep, that would explain it. Okay, so the reason my sounds weren't playing is actually because when I moved to my new computer, of course, it would actually change directories, right? So even if the directory layout is all exactly the same and I name everything identically right down to the letter, it's still going to be different on the new computer because of the sort of the under the hood IDs. And yeah, that was not going to be working too well. Sound effects, there we go. Okay. I think that's gonna work. There we go, okay. So anyways, when I, oops. Yeah, but okay, good. So when I moved to the new computer, the welcomes were something I forgot to break. Whole computer issues see no more? Well, not necessarily. There are a bunch of dumbs that have happened about the same time, but yeah, that's one of the ones. Because of course, on the surface you look at it, and there's nothing wrong with the setup. It should be fine, but then until it tries to run, you don't get the error that says file not found. And the reason it's not found is because it's not actually pointing at a file at that point in time, but it has to run and fail to clear the field and give you the not found command. All that really happens when people get... Yes, I'm on the Java server right now, yes. All that really happens in terms of sounds when people get welcomed, like the bot says hello, and then, not says hello, but like textually welcomes people in chat. But then there's a random folder of, whoops, and I think I put the wrong thing in there. I just realized I broke something that's going to cause problems later. Edit action. Video sound effects old. Oh, I've got the wrong thing in there. Okay, well, I'll have to fix that later. You may get some really strange welcomes for the duration of this particular stream. I'm not going to fix it while I'm in the stream because that's not what you're here for. But in any case, it's got a selection of a few different sounds it can play. And things like Mr. Bean hellos and so forth. But it occurred to me, because I've got the random welcome content working, then I could probably use that to pull from a random list of options for responses to like 8-ball style questions. Whereas the bot I used to use via Stream Elements had an 8-ball module, but you couldn't really get at the way it, like the under the hood portion of how it ran to be able to repurpose it for anything else. Literally, it was just an 8-ball module, that's all it does. Whereas I'm now using StreamerBot, or pardon me, Streamer.bot, usually referred to as StreamerBot or SB, but you can do a lot of stuff with that. And the way it runs is you've got a command, pardon me, you have an action you build out of sub-actions that includes the instructions of what you really want to happen. And then you build either a channel points redeem or a trigger command or a trigger word or whatever, and then you tell that trigger to set off a particular action. That includes things like, if, let's say in the welcome action, for example, if the content of the quote-unquote username happens to be, say, Stream Elements, because I haven't fully gotten off that one yet, if it happens to be Stream Elements, then do nothing and break. And it doesn't mean, break as in broken, but break as in computer programming stop. So things like that can be done, but then if it includes something such as, or if user isn't that one, then it pulls the username and then says hello user, and then gives like a random welcome phrase, like glad you could make it, from a series. I think I've only got about 4 in there right now. But I mean, that sort of thing could be quite useful if I was to repurpose that as an 8-ball type concept, because then if somebody would just redeem a command or use the exclamation point command, depending on how I choose to set it up, of like 8-ball and with your question, and then it just randomly pulls from a pile of answers. And it can either include the question itself in the response, or it can just give you the response. So yeah, you can see I've been thinking about all kinds of stuff. But I think, Max, I need to get figuring out a little bit better what your stream, I wouldn't say, well, schedule's maybe the word, but when you more commonly stream, just because I know I've caught a few of your streams, hence being a follower, and I know I've received a gift sub really recently and would like to just hang out. I like your style. I just have not sat down. I really need to. I've got enough people I follow now. I just need to sit down and try and drag through when they have posted as their regular streams, if people post it, and then work my way backwards to figure out, okay, well then who do I have to start paying attention when I get the notices? Just so that, because I'd like to be able to watch more streamers, but just being a parent and having other activities, I need to work around, or knowing, okay, well that means so-and-so's gonna be on at whatever time. Because I'd like to watch some of them, can we maybe watch 15 minutes or 20 minutes while kids are having a shower or something like that, that kind of thing. But I will, by default, go and do something else if I'm not aware that there are people streaming until I get the notification smack in the middle of whatever activity I'm unable to get my way out of. Yeah. How do you get a strange welcome? All that would really happen, Arch, actually, to be honest, is you'd probably get a random audio sound with it. So you may actually show up. It would only happen during your first chat in a stream, so I don't think you leaving and coming back will actually trigger it. But someone who pops into stream and says their first comment for that stream would probably get a strange welcome, such as Sherlock Holmes Cumberbatch style, saying "laters" when they first show up, which really doesn't help anybody in terms of clarity. I just showed up and you're telling me laters? Does that mean you want me to leave? Like, no, only if your name is Zerk, right? Just kidding, we love you, Zerk. But yeah, so that sort of thing I have to fix, because somehow in my refile structuring I accidentally moved the hello sounds into the general sounds folder. I need to just put them back in a subfolder and then repoint to the subfolder rather than the main one. Monday. Ah, that's why I usually miss you. Apologies in advance, but that's when I usually have meetings, which would be. Is it 10 p.m. Eastern? Yeah, so that would be about. Well, maybe not. 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that'd be 8 p.m. So we actually have our Cub meetings on Mondays from 9 to 11 Eastern. So that's probably why I'm missing your streams a lot. But given that, though, knowing that that's likely to happen, then I may have a list of streamers. Some of them I can catch live. If I can catch them live, great. But if their schedule is not one that regularly would work for me, then I actually have a separate list on my phone where when I have somebody, you guys become like podcasts, I guess you could say. So when I can't make streams on a regular basis, then I can add yours to the list of VODs to catch up on during the week. Which means at least I'm a week out of sync, but then on the odd time, like there's a Canadian holiday that doesn't match with an American one or something like that, then I might actually be able to catch one of your streams live, and it'd be nice not to be out of the loop, so to speak, if you've been working on projects or talking about anything in particular. So yeah. No, I'm not a stalker. No, you didn't say that either, but I'm not sure whether Arch likes my texture pack, dislikes my texture pack that appears to be sushi rolls for logs, or whether or not he's just hungry when he watches my streams. A little difficult to tell. Oh, actually. Oh. I might as well take this table down first. But I do have shears, so that might be a little easier. So I have a texture pack on. It's going to. People keep asking me that, and I keep forgetting what it's called. Resource packs. There we go. So it's the Stratum resource pack. It's from the same makers as the shader pack for Continuum, with 2 U's, and then just a couple extra pieces. Like I was trying the compliance shaders, and I liked their see-through. What do you call it? Their see-through interface. So I'd grab that, and then of course just little things like lowering the fire because I can still end up in it. But it's nice to be able to see over top. And then Compliance also had some nice little 3D flowers, so I threw those in. And then that's what's giving me a lot of the realistic textures. The sort of specular lighting is coming via shader pack of Project Luma. Oh. Okay, oopsie daisy. Yeah, let's plug that hole. So yeah, Project Luma looks pretty cool. I will say though, if you're ever messing around with that on a PC, you will need to turn off the Minecraft clouds because they turn out black underneath. So yeah, Project Luma, in case anybody's heard of it, is the successor, or has not heard of it. Sorry, is the successor to the CUDA shaders, which are a more commonly known set. And it's just that the I think that now that RTX is sort of a real thing, that the makers decided to sort of start over and code things more with the RTX style. It's not a true RTX in the way that Bedrock has, but it's basically the ray tracing for Java. Whereas the CUDA ones were the previous, I think they called it GTX coding. So yeah. The reality is, of course, some say, sorry, bad Top Gear reference, but some tell me that inside dark places, like caves and mansions and whatnot, that the shaders I've got can make things look really dark, and sometimes unwatchably so. So I'm just trying to keep a handle on that as much as I can, just so that I'm not making it impossible for people to watch. But thus far, it's not actually... in my playbacks, it doesn't look to me to be too dark per se, even though things do look rather moody. Yeah. Has not annoyed me enough in the way it looks in the VOD playbacks to consider changing it, but, you know, always open to further feedback. Right here, let's sleep before I end up with neighbors. Oh, So what is this I'm taking down? This used to be, sort of, it's a classic woodland mansion. So hopefully you've seen one, Max, because it sounds like you're fairly familiar with this. But yeah, there's the portal we popped through on the weekend, which actually, strange enough, leads to, on the coffee server, it leads to the roof of the Nether. And so when we got together on Saturday, courtesy of the Zerks, we all hopped on borrowed horses and tore off to the portal. And then at the portal, so if you end up in the coffee server train station, you'll see there's a couple of collections of crossbows that are all pointing to sign with numbers and dates and stuff, like, or day of the adventure, day 1, day 2 sort of thing. And then there was a set of coordinates for a nether portal. Well, I stole the first one. But when you get to the nether portal in, like, on the roof of the nether for that first one, then there's also on that portal the directions to the next one, kind of like a tag, I guess you could say. And so I haven't written down the other 2 for that date yet. For some reason, I just followed people. This fences, great. Oak fence. That doesn't go there. Of course. Put in your inventory. Silly Dell. Keep insisting that I'm not going to call myself Dell, and then I go and do it anyways. No-win situation. Okay, so this is the first of those woodland mansions that we took down on Saturday. PP Zerk and Zerk said, yeah, if anybody wants to tear it down, go for it. So I said, well, do you mind if I do? And they're like, no, rock on, have fun. So I've been doing that. I started on Monday. It was going to be my plan to start on Sunday, actually, if the day 2 of mansion raiding didn't come to fruition. There were some communication hiccups. Yeah. There were some communication hiccups and people weren't available initially when they thought they would be. Also, communication timing hiccups in terms of who streamed when and whatnot. Because for me, it was completely off schedule to stream on the weekend, even though I made sort of special streams. But it was a regular day for the Dynamites who initially were going to be able to be part of it, but then things came up and whatnot. And so they weren't, particularly when the time shifted and people were starting to show up. But yeah, we went ahead anyways, but my plan would have been to start then. And Monday is when I did start. No, actually not Monday, sorry, Tuesday's when I did start, yes. Started on stream. And I did 2 runs yesterday, as in I was still playing with this one. And then, yeah, like, you can see the rate at which I progress. I mean, I'm stopping to talk a little bit, but this is the same sort of speed I've been putting in the whole time. And I have not made it off of the top full floor yet. Taking down the tower that's on the top. And, of course, obviously the roof. But I've not taken down much. Like, I mean, I haven't even gone to take out wood stuff on the main floor. There's no interior that's been touched inside, aside from what we tore through on the weekend. Yeah, there's tons of resources. Well, I was joking to Maribel Jade earlier when she said, "What are you doing? Or what did you do in your stream after we raided?" I said, "Oh yeah, we're just dismantling a woodland mansion." And she sort of said, "Wow. You know, is it just because you can, or because you want the space to build, or do you actually want the resources and stuff?" And I said, well, at this rate, if I hoard everything that I'm not letting despawn, I probably won't have to chop any more wood for the rest of the season. Which, of course, is only true depending on what wood type you're looking at. And if I don't make stupid mistakes like accidentally scraping right-clicking on the log and debarking it. Strip logs, that's what it is, if I accidentally stripping it. But yeah, because I mean, there's some birch, some holes in the wall. I'll come back to that later, but there's a reason I keep plugging some of them. Anyway, so you've got some birch, you've got some oak, tons and tons of dark oak. But that's it. So, I mean, if one wants to build with spruce or jungle or heaven forbid, acacia. Sorry, I'm kind of acacia'd out. Then you will still need to be chopping stuff. But it made Maribel laugh, and that was really what the goal of the comment was anyway. And I said I wasn't going to take down the outer wall yet. Well, here now, because I have to start on the outer wall at some point. Dagnabbit. Okay, let's... And I didn't do this. And... the reason I don't want to do this yet, I don't really care if that's uneven, is that I don't really need critters joining me while I'm taking stuff down, so I'm actually trying to start with the side of the building that is not liable to have zombies and creepers and skeletons and all else just wander in on me if I stay up too late. But yeah. So that's what I've been doing is semi-systematically taking it down. Like, this is funny because this is a lot bigger than I expected. I haven't run out of shulkers yet though, and that's... I actually still have 6, I think, maybe 7 that are empty. So that means I've got more space. Provided I don't do something stupid and, you know, like non-silk touch mine my ender chest again or something. I did that on stream too, yeah. Picking up ender chests on stream is probably my almost as annoying or almost as silly for me as trying to do redstone on stream is for a lot of people. By the way, I will be doing some very minor redstone on stream when I start doing my bookshop thing, just because I'll be doing like a sticky piston style he'll open the door sort of thing. Nothing super adventurous. Yeah, you can see that there's the front door where we came in, so I mean, we really haven't gotten a whole lot done. Yeah, resources. I mean, I'm one of those people who will either grow and chop trees till I get sick of it, or more commonly do a just-in-time. So like I'll have a single shulker of whatever it is, which if you're going to do any good-sized project, you learn really quickly that's never ever going to be enough. So by being a somewhat just-in-time creator, oh, I need 9 pistons or something, I'll make 11. Well, you're still going to run out. It's just the nature of the beast. For example, it was a darn good thing during last month's stream that I went ahead and built some of my statues in between, because I learned very quickly that I would have, if I hadn't taken care of it, I would have run out of more materials on stream than I actually did, and would not have been able to recover quickly. I'm still not super happy with the fix I made, but that's just because I'm fussy about it. Maybe I'm OCD on some level, I don't know. But in any case, that was, I would have run out of something and not been able to actually finish the statues, so I'm glad that we managed to fix that by discovering it in between. But that's an example of how just-in-time, just-enough creation kicked me, because if you get the numbers the least bit wrong, where you drop things and then don't go down and pick them up before they respawn, then you're gonna run out. Okay, let's drop off. Oh. One. Pardon me. That box is stairs. Did I mention already? Oh, no, I moved it. That's what the problem is. Can't find it if you move it. There we go. One. This has been hiding down here. And birch fence. Okay. Empty enough? Yes. Oh, great shears. That's what I came over for in the first place. Have a pair. There. Nope. That would be my emergency box. Knows these ones, but I'm trying to avoid that because they've got mending on them. I mean, I guess I could... I must have given over my spare pair. Okay, well. Use these, and if we destroy them, I'll get another pair. I mean, sometimes I make dumb mistakes that are just simply a waste of time. Such as things like I was working on my bee farm, and silly me, first round of shears I made for my bee farm, well, it wasn't actually made. It was me running back and forth with a whole ton of melons, getting emeralds, and then buying them, and then I realized, like, 5 seconds later, what a stupid move that was. I would have made it so much faster and so much cheaper if I had just used ingots from my iron farm and made them. So, yeah. It's that kind of thing where verbiage comes into play, and it's mistakes like that that are what contribute to me feeling so behind sometimes, is just, you know, you do it to yourself. That's okay. But ready to start chopping out the floor. Be skippy. Maybe I'll take the walls down first. That might, even without wanting neighbors visiting in the green variety, I think that's probably a smarter move than digging down. Simply taking it down layer by layer. That way, if I do fall off when I'm taking the walls down, it's not as far to fall. There go the shears. Although, it's perfect timing, so whatever. Wait a minute. Shears just went splat. So, it's rather silly thing for me to run away, put the shears away, because there's no shears to put away. Right. We're at AM in the morning, but a little too early for me to feel super comfortable running into the forest. Is that an overhang? No. That's an overhang. I'm gonna... Aw. Okay, music stuck in me weird little hiss noises. Wrong time. So I know I won't get all of the materials because some of them, like that block just went way over the edge. There's no point in me going all the way down there to pick it up. Not just a risk factor of meeting mobs, it's, I've got a cobblestone generator, so why bother? But it still has to be taken down because, like tree leaves, when people just chop down chop down the trunk of the tree and then just leave the leaves there, if they don't despawn because you've left one block left in them and you've got the floaty trees, or sometimes even if they will despawn, but it takes forever and a day because you don't have, like, better leaves or faster despawn or whatever mod you prefer, or even just bedrock is the way it is, then the floating stuff really bothers me. That's something I will definitely admit an obsessive-compulsive dislike of. Is people leaving things, particularly, say, a spit of land or a chunk of rock or like something that's clearly not natural, a la like planks or something, just floating up in the forest. Not necessarily a way to troll me per se, but I will say I do get irritated by people who do that because it gives me that little itch, like the slightly crooked wall hanging that you just want to reach out and fix. I mean, truly, it's not broken in some people's eyes, but it's just one for me that's like, no, I just can't leave it that way. Twitch, twitch. But if it's not my build, of course I will leave it that way, because, you know, not your stuff, don't touch. All that jazz. Somebody asked me a couple days ago, in real life, whether or not I've ever been pranked. And I legit said no, but it's not that people haven't. I guess I've been tease gifted? How do I explain that? That sounds dirty. I'm just not intending to. What I mean is people are being very, very nice, and I've had gifts that help out, but they're purposely anonymous with silly names, even if you can sort of guess pretty likely who it was that gifted it. What's funny you should mention that, Arch, actually, because Stormy was saying, oh yeah, I guess I should get myself a horse at some point, and PP Zerk was like, well, you can have one of ours. And Stormy goes, well, that would be great, but at the moment I don't have a place to put them, and you can't exactly drag them up the tree into a bird's nest. It just doesn't work. So Huge Stormy Owl apparently has built herself a treehouse. Actually, I think she called it a treehouse, actually, but I mean, owl's treehouse, bird's nest, yeah. So I think that's what she's gone and built, which is really cool. Like, I actually should go take a tour and go see it. But I also thought it was mildly funny that just picturing the idea of, oh, poor horse, getting forcefully somewhat dragged up a side of a house for being able to get you into a tree. I just reminded me a lot of when DC tried to boat some villagers up a pillar by stretching the lead and then hoping it would snap back correctly. And I've seen people fly with elytra and boats on leads, and it's funny as all get out, but it's also wickedly cruel in a horribly hilarious way. But yeah, so anyways, I got friendly pranked, I guess you could say, by gifts from, I think I had the Easter Bunny and the Leprechaun and oh, Santa Claus gave me something, and you know, things like that. So I mean, so friendly, completely harmless, assistive pranks, I guess is maybe more accurate description. I'm sure they're probably, oh actually, I think the latest one was a quote-unquote anonymous gifter who gifted me a beacon at my base. And on the shulker that came with it, the shulker was labeled 221B Beacon Street. So while I have a suspicion who that came from, they kind of gave themselves away by a couple days earlier gifting me a rather souped up pick, marked the Poirot pick. Yeah, but then they said who it was at that point, so I suspect that the cheesy name on the beacon is probably from the same source. Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where I do stuff, and I mean, I do stuff in a slow manner, or I do stuff in a manner that's liable to get me dead. Like the default beacon settings they left it on because they set the beacon up for me. So I could do that, but I mean, they were nice enough to do it, so I'm not gonna argue. And the default settings they left it on were resistance and health regeneration. So, where was I going with that? But I mean, that's what they left it on, so it was really quite nice. And it was, I guess maybe it's probably one of those ones that's, you get both levels, both options set up, but then it's a gentle way of letting people know that there's a surprise there, rather than having someone log on and go, oh my goodness, I am suddenly, I go to mine something or chop something, and I do beacon haste or something, chop my way right through it, because I didn't expect that I had that extra ability. So, I guess it's a safe way of keeping something nice like that? Yeah. But anyways, I had been doing so many things on stream with tools, being stubborn about it, but with tools that probably, in a lot of cases, could have and maybe should have been dumped in lava rather than, or just tossed and let despawn, rather than using them up. But I was being stubborn about it, and so I think that was my second polite nudge to say, yeah, we don't really like watching that. It's boring. I don't know. It's hard to say. A jump boost surprise beacon would be funny, actually. Probably a lot safer than a mining haste would be, I think. Yeah. But even just a haste beacon, you know, you log on and suddenly you're running faster all over the place. That would just be a bit of a, for me at least, it'd be a bit of a jarring moment, but mostly because since I stream Minecraft normally Tuesdays and Thursdays during the earlier part of the day, and then Wednesdays would have been a whatever Wednesday where I was playing something else. I frequently get messed up enough on perceptions of speed in games that, if anything, I'd be wondering what on earth, because the game I had just come off of was like comparatively slow on run mode. But it's funny though, because more commonly I'm just running into, oh yeah, the keybinds for speed or a feature like run are different between two games. So like one of them I ran into recently, very common, unfortunately, is that the keybind would be for running on one was crouch on the other. So I intended to run, and I instead was triggering the crouch, and of course that slows everything down as opposed to speeding it up. Or one of the games had an always run option, and so you log in a game going, oh man, I'm really slow, and then realize, yeah, well that's because this game doesn't have a locked in run mode, or at least has not been configured, kind of thing. So there's little things like that have been throwing me lately, so if I was to pop on and suddenly my beacon was making my character behave extra strangely, it might throw me a little more, take a while to get my bearings. I'll admit, I picked a bit of a dumb time slot for streaming. I picked a daytime stream because every day of the week my kids are in school during that window, so as a stay-at-home parent, that's great. You're not going to have munchkins wanting something while you're in the middle of stream. I mean, some streamers do that. They go on mute or they go on be right back or whatever because their kids want something. And either that or that the spouse is on kid duty, so to speak, during a stream. I didn't want to do that to my husband very often. Well, at least that's when it started. I mean, obviously things are changing. But I didn't want to do that, so therefore during the day, because I'd be gaming anyways, it made perfect sense. That's what I do during the day sometimes. So pick those slots, but then I didn't realize that I'm not really mentally awake at that hour. Like, I mean, we drop the kids off at school for like an 8 a.m. start, and they start at the same time that most people start work. But anyway, like an 8 a.m. start, and then I come back, and that's when I have breakfast and get my head on straight and have my first half a cup of coffee and so on. So I'm not mentally with it enough to prepare in advance for doing a lot of streaming. So sometimes I actually get down and I'm actually turning on everything and sitting down at the computer less than 5 minutes before start. So like 3 minutes or whatever. And then so you'll get like Windows updates and you're going, no, not now. Go away. Supposed to be streaming now. But so once again, priorities. There's minor perks to doing everything in whatever ways, and sometimes it's just rabbit trails of habit, and sometimes a bad habit, once it's become a habit, makes it very hard to break. Ooh, this is another reason I like the shaders. Yes, it's dark inside the building, but this looks super cool. And with the CUDA shaders, they also have dynamic lighting, so nice and dark, but then, and this looks nice and dark too, but we can actually see the difference when I switch holding my torches, and I can even put them in the offhand in Java, right, so I can actually see better if I'm doing this sort of mining. Well, mining, not just popping. Unfortunately, of course, because it's just shaders, not actual light emission, so for being a chicken, that would be really nice if you could actually hold your torches not only in your offhand, but if doing so would also give the effect of light such that you wouldn't have any risk whatsoever of a mob literally spawning right on top of you. But as I've said to many other people, wishes were horses and beggars would ride. That's one of those old nursery rhyme kind of things. Yeah. I mean, Bedrock is okay for a lot of things, but I'm on the left-hand, or sorry, pardon me, offhand parity bandwagon. I would like to see more. Yeah, mobs can't really spawn that close anyways. It's I like it as a lighting source this way, but there's some things that don't react to lighting sources, so. Alrighty, did I get all of the... That looks like it. Okay, we're back to wood. Rabbit trails, habit trails, says Arch. Well, yes, and actually, I used to sell that stuff. Habit trail, that is, years ago. Used to be a shift supervisor for a pet store. And we sold habit trail, that godforsaken product known for to be the bane of all hamsters everywhere. Let's make this two rows high. On the other hand, I mean, our house is very much like a grand version of the Douglas Copeland novel Microsurfs some days, so habit trails not surprising.
God save my little broken body!
Wow, you had so much fun with that one. So, Neon, just to give you a quick explainer, that's a weird spot to start. Yeah, Arch and Max know why that happened. Suffice to say that when I moved to my new computer, the file path to the welcome sounds got busted. So I quote-unquote fixed it, not realizing that what I'd actually done initially, when I moved things onto the computer, I had also been to move the welcome sounds into the general sounds folder. So the random effect would actually grab a sound from the general folder. Which, unfortunately, as you found out, includes that one, which would actually be rather apropos if I was to fall off this building. But, yeah. So, Arch, that is a very good example of what would happen when the welcome command from the bot randomly pulls an auto or a sound from the folder it's pointed to, which does have the other welcome sounds. I think the example I used when I was discussing it earlier was the Sherlock Holmes laters, but yeah, I did not expect it to pull that one. I don't have any that are rude or anything, so no worries there, but it's just extra funny to me that it pulled what it did. Yeah. So that quote's actually from Muppet Christmas Carol. Rizzo the Rat jumping off of a fence outside Ebenezer Scrooge's house. And then he discovers that he left his jelly beans behind right after that sound. So he goes, oh, and tries to assess the situation. And I'm thinking, well, you know, he left his jelly beans on the other side of the fence, so he's figuring out how to get them. And he just squeezes between the bars. Gets them, comes back, and poor Gonzo's looking at him like, what? He's like, what? He goes, you can fit through the bars? Yeah? Why? You are so stupid. Because Rizzo's complaining about being scared of heights. Like, there's only two things that scare him. Heights and falling from them. And so, of course, he has that response to jumping off of the fence about saving his little broken body, and then goes to show that he can actually go right through the bar, so he didn't have to do that at all in the first place. Anyway, yeah. So mistakes from my bot do happen when the mistakes from the bot programmer or configurer happen. So yeah. If you guys hadn't figured it out yet, although it's dark color, I am a natural blonde. Enough said. Not in the necessarily stupid category, but possibly a little more prone to mistakes than your average bear. So yeah, all it really takes for me to fix that one after stream is to just drag the welcome sounds that are appropriate, which should be things like Mr. Bean saying hello, you know, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, hello there type of thing. It just drag those sounds, which it can randomly pull from, into a subfolder of my sounds folder and correctly point the random place to pull from. That's all it's going to take. I don't know how I would have made that mistake in between. I think it was probably dumping some junk sounds, and I just accidentally dumped the whole folder and only recovered part of it, and, you know, that sort of thing. But no harm done. Other than confusing Neon, which, of late, that could potentially have its own bonuses. Usually Neon's able to confuse me And I don't even think he's intending to. So it's nice to confuse him for a change. Oh, go away. I'm hearing a zombie in the background. And I'm hoping to get away from the hill quick enough that I don't necessarily have a zombie following me. I'm back onto the pick I didn't really want to use. Not pick, sorry, the axe I didn't really want to use. Just because it's my only one with me. Doubt axe. But, efficiency 4, bending, silk touch, and unbreaking 3. Anything more than 4, like if I actually go to 5, I tend to do far more chopping out under my feet and things like that, causing more problems than an efficiency 5 is worth, so I don't usually use one. And then if I've got a beacon handy, which, now that I just had that big conversation about beacons, probably should bring the beacon. That would actually make life a lot easier. However, if I do that, though, then I prefer to top out at efficiency 3 axes, which is the one that we just broke. For that very same reason. I know it sounds funny, like it sort of defeats the purpose of having the beacon in the first place, but I'm thinking maybe because of all the to and fro to just put stuff away, the additional haste movement might work. Uh-oh, rubber band. That's not good. Somewhere on the server, there's probably a thunderstorm. Yeah, so I should probably fix the sounds, bring the beacon, get more axes. Not sure. Oh, build around to it. That was the other item, right? Talked about we need to build around to it because I keep needing to get around to it. Actually, maybe I'm not quite at the 3D print stuff yet level, but I wonder if I should try and financially sucker DC into printing me around to it. I think I might have more luck asking my friend in Cambridge Bay up north to print one. He lives in gentleman lives up in Nunavut, which is one of the Canadian territory areas up north. Like literally, he lives on the south edge of one of the largest land masses off of the mainland from Canada, and so he lives there. But he bought himself a 3D printer, which it was an interesting adventure to get shipped up there. But I mean, this guy's weird, so yeah. In any case, but his justification was things like his wife is actually a horticulturalist by training, yet they live in the north. I don't quite follow why they stayed up there, but whatever. Anyway, but therefore she loves to have indoor plants, right? And loves, because she's trained in growing specialty plants, she doesn't always have the correct plant pots for it, or the correct watering can, or, that sort of thing. Or maybe the spacers for the seeds, or like, I mean, it's things like that we would wander to our local garden center and buy. And she just can't get those up north that easily, or that the cost to ship them is rather ridiculous. So in the end, it actually became more useful to them in the things they do. Not just gardening, I mean, it's other things that he does too. He's a bit of a nerd all around. But it became more useful to him, actually, instead, to periodically get shipped up large boxes of plastic filament for his 3D printer. I think he actually might even have one of the ones that, there are not many units out there, but there are some that can actually print low-end metals as well. There's some sort of electrostatic process. I'd have to ask him more about it, but yeah. So anyway, so he's got one of those, and some of the machines he uses, he's a bit of a DIY type guy, but some of the small tools and machines he uses, of course, if a cog or a gear or whatever breaks, he's the kind of guy that really would go and either buy the 3D design for the correct gear or cog, or else build it himself. He's that kind of guy. So, yeah. I might have more luck actually asking him than DC, but maybe I'd say, hey Chris, can you ship me around to it? A what? Around to it. What do you mean? I need to get around to it. Well, and then have that whole explanation. I mean, when you explain it that way, it kind of sounds a little bit like a Abbott and Costello Who's on First sketch. But yeah. That's something that would be small and flat and easy to ship. That probably wouldn't need painting. I keep saying I'm going to do 2 levels, then I keep only doing 1. Oh, and it's nighttime. Yeah. I'm dumber than a sack of hammers at the moment. I think I can reach most of that from the ground, so I might just stay on the ground this time. Or not ground, but from this level. For me. So in spite of being a couple minutes late, starting this particular round, that's an off-schedule semi-flex stream slot. I may actually just go ahead and do what we can do and potentially call it an hour, or at the hour. Not critical. Yes. Oh. Let's do it again. It's going to be weird, but... Well, not yet. Yet. Blocking those outside, that's fine, I do. Okay. Where more? Oh, not that one. Daytime. Nope, nobody there. So. Okay. Should be able to dump things before I start taking more. I find it kind of amusing how quickly Dadcraft moves from topic to topic to topic in terms of his interests. Like, something catches his eye and you turn around, he's into it already. Like, it becomes his latest new hobby. Oh, and where'd you come from? You used to come all the way up from the main floor? Oh, you probably came down from above. Anyway, yeah, I just find it interesting how DC does that. Just turn around and it's his new hobby, whatever it is. Like, what would have possessed him to get into the stream where he won, or the situation where he won the 3D printer filament that started this whole 3D printing craze anyways? It makes me wonder. Could have been a whim. Could have been he had the interest for a long time. Who knows? It's just funny how he goes from, like, not being a 3D printer to, yep, I got pro strats as a 3D printing master. I'm not arguing whether he does or not. He definitely has far more pro strats than I'll ever have at that. But it's just funny how fast he went from 0 to hero. Oh, no steps this time. A new box for that. It could have been seeing the D&D minis printed. I acknowledge that that's actually fairly likely now that you mention it. It probably is something like that. Even seeing that, I don't know, like, as I look over my shoulder, I've got a Cricut cutting machine. And I didn't jump into it quite as quickly as DC did, but I definitely got in. And it's probably a little bit of a silly purchase in terms of how often I'm using it. Then again, there are phases of the year where I use the printer quite heavily, or cutter, sorry, quite heavily. So, I know, I mean, pot, kettle black and all that jazz. And I can also say that DC is one of which I do not claim to know of which I speak. Yes, that's a lot of hoopra in senses. But, I'll never claim to know DC. As Arch pointed out, we all have our permits. Probably DC in particular has his permit. For just about anything and everything. More power to the gent. Random stuff box. There. Bulls. Oh, this one row. No. Oops. But that's what I'm looking for. Nope. Okay. Okay, more walls. So here it is, a day and a half in of actually taking stuff down. Day and a half maybe, based on play sessions. Ish, yes, because I don't always play this many hours. And yet here I am, taking things down. And just getting through the top of the first floor. I mean, if... most of you probably had already seen this sort of thing. Not necessarily dismantled in this fashion, but I mean, had a far better concept than I of just how big these places are. But I'm learning a lot about size. Oh yeah, but when I finally need to go get another axe, then I shall, or when this one's nearly out, I shall take a portal trip back. We'll definitely come back with the beacon, because that'll make the cheap axes from the villagers that little bit more hasty. Running back and forth to drop things off. Or maybe in the chopping department, I haven't decided. A lot of it has to do with how much I fall through the floor. And, yeah. And we'll pick up some speed, but when it's become something you've already seen before, then there's a limit to which I'll be doing all of this in stream. I mean, I'm fast... I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Maybe more of this. We'll see. It's Minecraft something. So I don't know much of anything. When I'm tired, sometimes in Minecraft itself, it's like every day is a whatever Wednesday. What do I feel like doing today? Or what do I think I need for today? But I mean, there will be a point at which that it won't be all taking the fortress Jeepers mansion down, because this is just the top floor. There's so much more to take down that I don't want to do all of it on stream. It'll bore everybody to death. And the only other reason I'm not having partners to take this down with is just, well, A, I never asked, and B, no one else expressed any interest in doing this type of crazy thing. So if there's 5 more out there to have somebody do this sort of thing with, then we're probably not in competition for resources. But I'm very certain that even though I only had 6 more empty shulkers, aside from the ones you see sitting as my shulker monster at the moment, then we'll probably end up needing more shulkers too. Actually, at this rate, just for kicks, I could even gift Ross an entire shulker full of mansion wood and see what she does with it. It'll probably end up in her wood shop. I was joking about it, rather than being 1 diamond a stack, it's because it's special from an increasingly scarce resource. Then she would actually charge 2 diamonds for it rather than 1, but it was more of a joke than anything else. And then she was the wanter of the flower pots. I don't know what she needs a zillion flower pots for. Sounds like there's a project involved, but I'm looking forward to hearing more on that one at some point. Yeah, there's a lot of work I've done, but if I can do anything to speed it up in a way that I can still maintain control, such that I'm not going kersplat an awful lot, then that's the key. The other part of it is that it's a bit of a self-defeating plan to do something like this and actually try and keep up talking to yourself at the same time. I'm not saying that, you know, I need more chatters, people. Chattering. I mean, hey, I appreciate it. I totally love it. I always want to hear more of it. But I'm not saying that's the only way to handle things. But if this is the same content over and over and over again, you get fewer people showing up, you end up talking to yourself a lot more. And I think what the upshot of that is you end up just either repeating yourself round and round, making that mistake of too easily just simply going quiet because you think nobody's listening, or you demonstrate fairly clearly how crazy you actually are. And while I may be actually partaking a lot in Category C, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And no, that was not meant as a bad pun. I just realized it could be. Can I get this glass out of here before I go sleep? Sounds like a yes, okay. You can see, like, even these little runs to go back to the bed would probably be improved by having Haste 2 turned on. So, definitely beacons. Beacon, beacon, beacon. The question becomes, where do I put it? Right? Probably on the main floor, I think, underneath me. It just means more surfaces for mobs to spawn on. I mean, I guess I could cover the whole thing in carpet. Not like I don't have enough of it. There you go, 3D carpet art, courtesy of trying to decorate a beacon base. Maybe that would be kind of amusing, just looking at it from above, sort of in a straight down concept, and pixel art spelling out 3D across it. There's definitely not enough space to write beacon. Maybe there is, depending on how you write your letters, I guess. Anyway, yeah. Now the next question is to figure out which of the things I've said fall under, yep, she'll really do that, or whether they fall under the category of promises, Delenn. Say that and then it never happens. That's for both of us to find out. So yeah. It's actually kind of funny, but as I was watching Zola and Liara today, I was actually thinking, you know, my son plays Valheim largely with his uncle, but he can easily play it on his own. It's not like he needs to be rescued, other than being a lower level character, so of course not quite as geared up. But of the two games, I've actually looked at playing both, and I've tried a bit of Stardew Valley, and it seemed, I mean, it's nice, but it seemed somewhat repetitive. And then, on the other hand, my daughter was playing that one, and they were both quite into it, but her more so than her brother, Stardew Valley, that is. And then they started explaining how, like, some of the storyline that was going on. I'm thinking, I don't know about this. He's 9, so I don't want necessarily to be ignorant of the world. On the other hand, when they talked about characters being ultra depressed, and that you end up having a guy who basically tried to drink himself into a stupor because he didn't want to be around in the world, and it's like, okay, yes, that while that may be a spoiler, it's one of those situations where you kind of realize, like anime, if you're unfamiliar with some of the stuff that goes on in some animes, not all of it is, you know, like, animation isn't always for kids, right? And the same sort of thing, the 8-bitty pixel art kind of style is not always guaranteed to be safe for kids, even if it appears so on the surface. We were watching watching playthroughs of pixel riffs, which is part of what made our kids think, yeah, that's pretty cool and seems to be relatively safe, but I don't think they got far enough into the playthroughs that Pixel had to be able to be aware of this factor. I know I certainly didn't, because I was off doing something else. And so my daughter decided that, of her own accord, actually decided that she is going to take a bit of a holiday from that one for a while. But my son's been still playing Valheim, and it's one that actually looks quite cool, and I thought about striking up some Valheim for whatever Wednesdays. Then I realized that it's a bit of a non-stop whirlpool suck, and not in terms of being a bad game, but as in, like, it'll suck you in because it takes a whole ton of work. In the same way that Pigglesworth, we were watching a lot of his run through of Satisfactory, and I quite like the look of that game as well. But then I realized, yeah, once again, the hours and hours he puts in off camera, outside his playthroughs, to be able to actually appear to make progress by the time he does his videos, or did his videos, I should say, because it's all past tense now, were rather insane. And so, if I'm going to be having a game where I put in loads and loads and loads of preparatory work or repetitive stuff, I'm going to minimize the number of games I'm doing that in. Because the whole point to the Whatever Wednesdays concept, when I started it, was that it was just supposed to be a breather from doing Minecraft, not something else that took as much, if not more, work than Minecraft. So yeah. That's part of why I hadn't gone into Valheim yet. I mean, I may at some point, but I just don't feel that I've gotten to a stasis point with Minecraft, such that I can put that kind of work into it. So, if I did that on Whatever Wednesday, it would be an incredibly slow drag, because I wouldn't be doing off-camera work to build houses and gather resources and all that stuff for Valheim, simply because it's not my main game. Which is funny, I mean, when you think about it. Doing preparatory off-camera work for a game that you spend twice as much of your time in on-camera, versus things where you only have one shot a week, so in theory you want to make it count, and so you'd want to do the preparatory work. Like, there's two sort of ways of looking at that, so. But it's unlikely, because I know Valheim will be a huge magnet for me. Just because I've got some Norwegian background to me, and I quite like the Norse mythology references it has. The graphics are pretty cool. And it's not all about the realism, in terms of their textures and stuff, that gets my attention. But there's something about it that seems to have progress without necessarily having progress. I mean, I like how Minecraft is very open-ended, and you can do things in whatever order you want, depending on how much how much of a bootstrap you're going to give yourself, either with a starting chest if you're playing solo game, or help from friends early on if you're doing multiplayer servers and stuff. But it doesn't have a progression order. There's no regular way of doing things. The end was originally called the end, because that was the be-all and end-all. But frequently now, for a lot of players, that's not the order they attack them in. I mean, like on a multiplayer server like this one, for example, we did the dragon fight really quite early, before a multiplayer attempt at a ton of mansions. Or before a multiplayer attempt at... Well, I guess there isn't necessarily any major thing in the nether, unless you want to go annual gas farming, I guess. But there's really not... There's no set progression format in vanilla Minecraft. So maybe that's one of the things that appeals to me in Valheim. It's got its elements that are Minecraft-y, with having a progression-ish story, because you can't actually get to the next area or do the next thing survivably if you don't have stuff geared up. Welcome back! Welcome back, Neon. No problem. It's always one of those streams where you do what you need to do. Actually, I know it's a Whatever Wednesday, but for a Minecraft stream, this is a quieter one than usual, both in content and in visitorship. So if you get busy and you take any more calls, then that's totally okay. Of course, that's my husband. Me. Okay, so I am about 10 minutes overtime because I got chattering. And I've gone a little longer than usual because I'm doing what I probably will just keep on doing. Well, at the rate I'm going, maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll get part of this level down. We'll see. I promise no more than the rest of this week. So as in, if I do 1 or 2 streams tomorrow, then that's no more on-camera Woodland Mansion stuff. Alone. So, yeah. But let's run out in the sun, and info was good to hear. Well, I'm glad you thought it was info. Sometimes I can't tell the difference. And it was very repetitive for some people who hung out in both the morning and afternoon sessions. That's just the risk they're going to have to take, I'm afraid. If I can't remember what I've said already, then I'm going to just go ahead and repeat myself. And sometimes there are reasons for certain repetition, but in any case, actually, let's go this way, because that way you don't have to see. Yeah. So it looks washed out when you get the sun straight on me. If I turn around like this, see? A little bit darker. So anyway, thank you all for joining me. It's always fun to have friends come by and say hello when I'm working at taking down something like this. We didn't have as many visitors drop in this time, no puns intended, as we did the last time, although I suspect there will be more as we head down to the lower levels and take them down instead, because I do have to take out this floor that I'm standing on. But that's a project for another day, so I'm going to just take a quick look and see who we have to raid. By the way, the raid sounds, or I don't have sounds in raid, purposely so I don't have mistakes. Let's see. Ooh! It looks like our friend Dub Dynamite appears to be live, so I'm going to raid him. Funny enough, Neon, I don't actually have a raid command like that. Like, I didn't set one up, so the classic one works, but I also have a cheaty button. So we're gonna go raid Dub Dynamite. I wish you guys all the best, have yourselves a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Mislive